government shutdown. 41 days. The Democrats didn't get a thing out of this. They were blackmailing the Republicans. They were blackmailing the president. They said, we want $1.5 trillion in more spending. We want health care for illegal aliens. We want health care for able-bodied Americans who refuse to even volunteer 20 hours a week. We have all kinds of money we want to pour into non-governmental organizations on the hard left, all kinds of money for left-wing causes. In other words, we want $1.5 trillion put back into the budget. That's what we want. And by the way, the Unaffordable Care Act, that would be Obamacare, we want hundreds of billions of dollars in additional subsidies for that, even though the plan could never work 12 years ago. We told you that. All Democrats voted for it. All Democrats supported it. All Republicans voted against it. It is a disaster. They expanded it 4 years ago to make sure it would collapse even faster. Then they extended it to cover people who were more than 4 times the poverty level, so it's imploded. And their answer is more money. And by the way, we want it now, not just a vote. We want an outcome that we demand. And for this, they did what they did. Now, a couple of things about this, and I posted on this the other day. Canada, the United Kingdom, and Germany all have privatized, all of them. They've all privatized their air traffic control systems. Before there was a TSA, we also had private security at our airports. They didn't have the authority, and there certainly weren't as numerous as we have in TSA to ensure our protection after 9/11. But I think we're going to take a very, very good look at privatizing our air traffic control system, as well as our TSA. And I'll tell you why. There's 2 major reasons for this. Number one, 41 days. Too many who work as air traffic controllers decided that they were tired, the job was too much, that they weren't getting paid anyway, they got to take care of matters at home, and they called out sick. That is utterly unacceptable to me. They're in the process of shutting down our air traffic control system. That's what they were doing. Of course you're going to have sympathy for their situation. But the cops don't do that. The military doesn't do that. Doctors don't do that. Nurses don't do that when there are issues in specific hospitals or areas of the country or what have you. It's unacceptable, period. And I don't care if I'm going against the grain. I have nothing personal against any of these people. I don't know any of these people. But that's unacceptable. It's a heavily unionized association. In 41 days, these guys are tougher than that. These gals are tougher than that. They were tired, worn out. You got to be kidding me. Seriously? They're tired and worn out because people were staying out, sick leave and vacation leave all at once, so they had to pick up where some of their colleagues left off, I suppose. But to me, no great nation can put up with that. 41 days, and you collapse, and that's that. No. There are men and women in this country who have back-breaking jobs, literally back-breaking jobs, whether they're working in mines, in construction, God knows what. But to me, this is utterly unacceptable, period. Something needs to be done about it. That's number one. Number two, Bernie Sanders is very upset tonight, and I want you to keep something in mind. 7 Democrats and 1 independent who's really a Democrat are voting with the Republicans, all but Rand Paul. So that means the overwhelming majority of Democrats still still want to cripple the air system, the air control system, and still don't want to feed the needy under the food stamp program, among other things. Among other things. The Democrats don't care about the little guy, whether it's illegal immigration, whether it's crime, whether it's this. They created this situation in the first place. They took really a ministerial act that's not controversial, and they blew it up. They blew it up like legislative terrorists. They want the economy to collapse. They want airlines to come to a halt. They don't want to pay the military. They want ICE to surrender. This is the Democrat Party. That's what they want. Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. So I ask you a question. More and more takeover of the private sector by the federal government, more and more centralization of decisions by the central government, fewer and fewer Americans in the public sector making these decisions. Instead, we're getting politicians and bureaucrats who are not driven by expertise, who are not driven by public service, but are driven by power and politics. Can you imagine if the entirety of our healthcare system was run by the government? What these same people would do? Shut down the healthcare system? Make sure doctors and nurses aren't paid? Make sure hospitals aren't receiving the monies they need? When you have kamikaze Democrats who are prepared to blackmail in order to get what they want, to expand their power and further centralize government, removing it further and further from we the people, and you see their mindset. It's on display the last 41 days and beyond. If it wasn't for these 8 Democrats, 7 Democrats, 1 phony claims to be an independent, none of this would be resolved. Do you really want Bernie Sanders and Tlaib and these people to have this kind of power? Because the more power the government gets, the more power they have, and the less power you have. If we had the kind of healthcare system that they demand, top-down, iron-fisted, government-run healthcare, a relative handful of people could shut down the entire system for wages, working conditions, or even unrelated to this. Remember the teachers' union in Chicago? How they were shutting down the schools, really having nothing to do with their own salaries, but a whole laundry list of radical left-wing ideas that they wanted funded? That same mentality applied in healthcare, applied in all federal areas. Can you imagine? $1.5 trillion they wanted to spend. $1.5 trillion. So this should demonstrate, and it won't, but it ought to demonstrate once and for all, why you don't centralize services, economic decisions, in the hands of a relative few power-hungry politicians and bureaucrats. Especially the mindset of the Democrat Party, which is to burn down our system, burn down our economy, burn down whatever you have to burn down to get what you want. And now we get to hear from the Marxists and Islamists in the Democrat Party who say Schumer needs to go. Now, I don't understand this one, Mr. Producer. I'm certainly no fan of Schumer. I've been on his ass for a quarter of a century. But Schumer didn't vote for this. Did he? No. Schumer didn't agree with the other 8. So Schumer has to go? Schumer is a disgusting person, a disgusting political hack. There's no question about it. But they want to punish Schumer. Why, America? Even though he's a quisling. Even though he was silent in the face of Mondami, he didn't endorse him. And so it's time to purify. Because that's what Marxists and Islamists do. They purify. It's time to purify. They want a leader in the Senate who's a saboteur. They want a leader in the Senate who will bring down the whole country. Because they believe that's how they get power. You and I should stick by our conservative principles. We should demand a consideration of the privatization of the FAA and the TSA. We should fight every effort to centralize any further services and decisions of the government to the government from the private sector, as this is more evidence. And those who conducted a sick out, because pretty much what happened at the FAA, in my humble opinion, should be punished. Those who stayed, as I believe the president has suggested, should get a bonus. You reward good behavior and you punish bad behavior. Now, it's my intention to fly from Florida to Virginia tomorrow and to do this radio show. But if not on the air, and we'll have a sub if that's the case, it'll be because I can't get a flight back.